Hey everybody, first and foremost, cannot say thank you enough for the continued support the past couple of months. We've been putting out daily videos for about 3-4 months now, and it feels like we finally found our groove, the thing that people want to see most or people want to digest, especially from my perspective. So again, I can't thank you guys enough. This is our 10K sub video, and it's all because of you guys. So massive shout outs to you guys for all the continued support and the ability to come and watch these videos day in and day out. So massive thank you. This video is going to be a massive thank you to you guys, and what better way than to bring you guys through the whole process of how we got here. So the number one request was for a kind of long story of how I got kind of into the Rocket League scene and how it's evolved into where I'm at now. The story starts a long time ago, actually. So I've actually covered this, I think, only once before on video. A long time ago, I used to run a podcast called That's the Thing. And I'll try to leave a link to that in the description because it's not just my history, but it's the history of like Rocket League esports in general. Highly recommend checking out that video. It's actually really old. It's with myself, Johnny Boy, and I think Cloud Fuel. So that'll be in the description down below if you guys want to check out that as well. So my career into commentary and the Rocket League pro scene started pretty similar to everybody else's. The game was being promoted very heavily by influencers on Twitch, Summit, Lyric, etc., where they're pulling like 34K viewers playing Rocket League. And I discovered it because a GIF from a community figure by the name of Fisho Kid ended up making the gaming subreddit. I saw the game, was super into League of Legends at the time, and was trying to tell all my buddies, like, yo, this game's gonna be sick. Like, check it out. It's soccer, indoor. Like, I love this. This is super cool. All of them were like, nah, not for me. So I ended up picking it up, played it day one, absolutely fell in love with it, and I'll try to find some images. Because none of my buddies played it, I ended up grinding the 1v1 ladder because I was like, oh yeah, I don't have friends to play with, so I'll queue the ones queue. That makes sense. Ended up grinding ones because I was trying to just learn the fundamentals and kind of figure out how this game was going to play out. And got to the point where it was a game that I picked up pretty naturally. I played soccer or football, depending on where you're from, my entire life. So the concepts or the mentality behind how soccer was played is something that I always grasped very early on. And that actually translated quite well into Rocket League based upon spacing, when to challenge, when to be a bit more passive, for some inside, outside, kind of those things. So ended up playing ones and doing really well. Preseason and season one, I was in the top 100, peaking at around top 5. Essentially, my days were spent grinding the game on stream with the name That One Dude Adam from way back, for those that don't know. And pretty much every game was me getting a bunch of points, slowly climbing up at the top of the ladder, getting to like 5, 4, getting into that top 5 area. And then you ran into Kronovi, who back then was the best by far in North America. I would be playing pretty competitive matches up until that point, to where I was like, all right, finally back in the top 5. And then I played Kronovi, he'd beat me like 13-4 or like 13-5. And then I'd fall back down those points, and then I'd grind back up. It was very humbling, but that's how I met all the OGs. I mean, people like Fireburner, Husky, Espeon, like all the OGs in Rocket League. That is how I met them, and eventually I started queuing 2s with a guy named Lars, because he and I both played 1s quite a bit, and then eventually started playing 3s with a person by the name of Tonker and Ishmael. Both these guys were teammates that I had. We played under a team called Team Scoop. Competed in ESL every Sunday, and it was pretty much us versus Mocket for like top 16 every week. I don't know why we always ran into the old Mocket squad with like low 5, and it was low 5, Insolences, and Rizzo, I think, back then. But like, we either won or we lost. It was always super back and forth. During that time as well, Cloud Fuel also put out a post saying that there were some community organizations that needed help on the Rocket League Central website. And I'm like, you know what, might as well give it a shot. Always been interested in casting a little bit since League of Legends, watching like Rivington and stuff, and Kobe and Jat. So I figured, you know, might as well give it a shot. It doesn't hurt. I've always been pretty ambitious. So I took a video of, I think, VQ Untethered with Lichinio and Pluto, I think, against Air Force 2. I took a video of that, casted over it, and submitted it. The guy who was in charge of that for the organization called VVV was like, yep, we'd love to have you. How would you like to cast every Saturday? They did a Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday format. where each day was like a different thing. On Saturdays was like the randomizer. Basically, they put everybody into a selection pool. They randomized all the teams, and then they played it out. Leaf was also doing casting for them on Tuesdays with a captain draft format, which was something that was highly regarded as one of the best tournaments. I remember Kronovi used to play under a Smurf account called Cash, so people didn't know who he was. It was like Cash with a $sign for the S. Pluto would always show up late because he had bowling and stuff, and we'd always used to get mad at him. And now I'm super notorious for doing the same thing and pulling strings, but different perspective back then. So me and Leaf did a really good job, I think, of building up that tournament. I ended up covering a couple of the other shifts on Tuesdays and Thursdays because some of the guys couldn't make it, and that led to me and Leaf actually casting together. And this is back in like October, like September, October of 2015, shortly after, like a couple months after Rocket League just came out. Like the esports scene catapulted quick. So Leaf and I started casting together a lot, and it led to the point where they announced the RLCS, and me and Leaf were like, you know what? I hope we get picked. Luckily, Leaf was in good talks with Cloudfuel, which is one of the people that helped out, but Cloudfuel made basically like a community caster list of like 40 casters or something like that. He had seen me cast with my old caster, a guy by the name of Sir Jump on Stuff, which, as nice of a dude as Jump is, he'd fall asleep in the middle of the broadcast. He wouldn't talk. His mic quality was garbage, and as much as he wanted to be involved, it never felt like he took it too seriously. Not to the extent of like Leaf. Like after I casted with Leaf the first time, I'm like, all right, this guy and I, like, something could happen here. It's like you just get that gut feeling. So after VVV's first season kind of wrapped up, they took a really long break because one of the guys that was in charge wanted to release a website at the same time and ended up kind of screwing the whole thing over. The tournaments back then were pulling like 300-400 concurrent and doing really well, but they weren't doing anything to grow it into something more. This was at the same time that Final Carpet put up Pulsar Premier League. Mocket was running weekly tournaments, so I started branching out and casting with a bunch of different people. I started following teams through ESL on the weekends because I stopped playing. And the reason why I actually stopped competing is one of our teammates ended up going into the military. So rather than finding a new teammate and trying to keep competing, I'm like, you know what? We've reached like top 16 in NA status. That's pretty cool. But I think casting is going to go better for me. I got lucky. Started casting on a regular basis with Leaf and started branching out, casting my own thing, following teams through ESL, and just being on the grind. I mean, every night was pretty much cast with Leaf for like 6 to 8 hours until like 10, 11 at night. Go back and rewatch the VOD, and then at like 3 or 4 in the morning, text Leaf and be like, bro, like this part was really good. I liked this. And he and I were both still up, even though we didn't talk to each other. Like he and I both knew we were both still up, like watching our VODs and trying to learn and get better. And that's kind of what it is about the grind, is like when you're really passionate about something, it takes over. Like I stopped hanging out with my friends. I stopped going outside. Like, not that that's anything new according to right now, but you were so passionate about it because it was a hobby that you genuinely enjoyed. I was very lucky that I made pretty good money at my part-time job, so I was able to commit to casting a little bit more than others. And I do accredit that capability of like dedicating to it to being one of the reasons why I made it through. So comes time where Psyonix announces the RLCS, says that they want casters, etc., blah, 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 and it's in partnership with Twitch. Back then, Golden Boy, or Alex Mendez, you guys should know Golden Boy. He hosted the first season. He helped out at E-League. He's also done stage hosting for the RLCS Grand Finals a couple times. But Golden Boy was a guy that was working at Twitch at the time. He wasn't dedicated full-time to talent work, and he was in charge of finding casters. Psyonix originally wanted to pick up people with experience. They either wanted like ESPN style people, or they wanted people that were already in the esports scene because they wanted to bring that like professional flair to it. Golden Boy ended up convincing them that they needed to pick people from the community. The guys that know the game the best, the people that are watching it day in and day out, the one that know the nuances, those are the guys that you want. So that's what we ended up doing. We ended up getting very lucky with the fact that Golden Boy advocated for the grassroots style like Smash, rather than going the like, okay, pick up the Puckets and the Bensons and stuff, because they also did an MLG event together. And you could tell they didn't know the game, but they at least had the energy and the cadence and the ability to cast in a professional sense. So Golden Boy ends up advocating. They start reaching out. Cloudfuel's list of community talent gets out. He recommends probably like 5 to 10 people. They're looking for roughly 6 casters. So Cloudfuel put together a list and had like 40 casters or something, and kind of pushed ahead the top 10 that he thought would work the best based upon things that he had seen in the research that he had done. The original 6 were JamesBot, Findable Carpet, Wave Punk, LeafX, Gibbs, and one that a lot of people don't know, actually by a guy of the name of Toasty Jones. Toasty Jones was a guy in the community that was naturally talented. He was kind of like he was like the OG Jorby, I guess is the best way to explain it. Had a really good voice to it, had the cadence, obviously lacked the fundamentals like we all did, but was a guy that we all were like, yeah, he's pretty good. So what ended up happening is Golden Boy ended up reaching out to all of them and basically saying like, hey, we want you to do this. Some got announced or reached out to earlier. I know Kevin was one of the ones I'd known for a couple months, but a lot of these guys were reached out to and asked like, hey, do you want to do this kind of thing? Like, what's your availability? Are you able to come out to California? Blah, blah, blah. And all this stuff goes on. When they reached out to Toasty Jones, he didn't reply. Didn't reply to Twitter messages, didn't reply to any emails, didn't reply to anything. For whatever reason, and I still do not know. I have no idea what's happened to Toasty Jones. I don't know where he's at or what's going on. But what I do know is because he did not answer, I got a call. LeafX got a call while I was at work one day. So I'm working at my sales job that I fucking hate. Been there for 5 years. Wanted to quit for the past 2 or 3. Just could not stand it. Leaf keeps me a message. He's like, yo, I just got a message from Golden Boy saying that he's going to call me. Like, oh my God, this is actually happening. He's freaking out and stuff. I'm like, dude, that's awesome. Part of me is like, I hope it happens to me too. The other part of me is like, yo, I am so happy for you, dude. No matter what happens, like, this is going to be awesome for you. So all this goes down. I don't get a message from Golden Boy. Leaf, being the guy that he is and why Leaf is still one of my best friends, and is a testament to why Leaf is as awesome as he is, while he's talking to Golden Boy and like messaging him on Twitter, is like, yo, have you heard of my boy Lawler? Without him, I wouldn't be where I am. He says what he does, and then Golden Boy ends up responding and being like, well, I haven't, but shoot me some of his, his casting. So Leaf messages me immediately and goes, hey, this is what happened. And I'm like, dude, you don't have to do that, but thank you. Send me your best casting clips. Send me things that you're happy with and you're proud of. So I compile kind of like a demo reel and send it to Leaf, and he ends up forwarding it to Golden Boy. Golden Boy's response was, I have no idea how I've never heard of this kid, but I really like him. And he's saying that about me. So because of Leaf, and this is kind of where it gets crazy, is people ask how I get into casting or how I got into casting all the time. And it's like, yes, I put in hundreds of thousands of hours casting and practicing, but the reality of getting into esports is about knowing somebody or just pure dumb luck. Like, think about it. Stars aligned. Like, I ended up casting a random community tournament where I meet Leaf. Leaf gets picked up. Leaf gets invited into the RLCS. Toasty Jones, a guy who should have got in, doesn't respond to messages for whatever reason. Golden Boy ends up liking my casting. He reaches out to me, and then Golden Boy does call me after giving me a heart attack. He messages me on Twitter, and he's like, hey, we need to talk soon. I'm like, all right, awesome. I'm available these times. This is my phone number. Ghosts me. Doesn't say shit. Because I'm dying and like being eaten up inside, I see Golden Boy is streaming that night. So I go to his stream, and I'm watching stuff. I'm like, hey, man, I'm looking forward to our talk. Just trying to get some sort of information. Totally bluntly honest. Like, I am freaking out about what's going to happen in this phone call. And I message Golden Boy, and I'm like, hey, bro, like, I'm looking forward to our call, blah, blah, blah. Just seeing if I can get some information. And he says, while this is happening, he's like, yeah, man, I owe you a phone call, blah, blah, blah. And because he does that on stream in front of people, I'm like, okay, breath of fresh air. I can finally go to bed and relax, because my anxiety's eating me up. Next day happens. I go to work. I let my boss know, like, hey, I'm waiting for an important phone call. Like, if I'm in the middle of a contact or a customer, like, just know that I'm taking the call. And he's like, well, if you do that, you'll get fired. I'm like, I'm okay with that, because it was an opportunity I wasn't gonna give up. Even if it doesn't pan out to anything, I didn't care. So work day goes through, nothing happens. I get a call later that night from Golden Boy, and he messaged me and basically tells me the situation, if I'm available, what the thing is. And then he adds a caveat on the back end of that, basically being like, hey, man, like, you weren't a part of the original list, but I really like you, and I'm going to advocate for you. There's no guarantee that Psyonix is going to say yes, but I'll do what I can. So I totally understand the situation, let him know, and I say, hey, man, whatever happens, like, I'm happy that I'm even in consideration from you, so we'll see how it goes. Day or two goes by. I get a call again from Golden Boy, and I'm like, hey, man, how's it going? No formalities, nothing. He just says, you're in. And I break down crying, like freaking out, like dream come true. Like everything is like the stars align. Like things are insane. My life is about to change drastically. So He asked me what my availability is, how that's all going on. I tell him that I can be out there as soon as he needs me to. Like, everything's fine. Like, I'll get someone to cover my shift at work. It doesn't matter. I'll be there. And he's like, you and Kevin are the only ones that are willing to do that. So that's awesome. I think that really helps your chances. So time goes by, find out that we're flying out. It is Wednesday when I get that phone call. We need to get on a plane and leave the following Monday. So legitimately in like 4 or 5 days, I got to be packed and ready to go. I got to basically fix my job, like what's happening there, get that covered. Ended up calling my boss and basically tell him that he gets my shifts covered or I quit. There's no real in between. He starts being like humming and hawing, like, by the way, I hate this job. He starts basically toying over like, can I do it? Can't I do it? And while he's doing that, I just told him like, I quit. Like, he's in the middle of like talking and deciding like, I don't know if I can do it, blah, blah. And I'm like, on the other end of the phone, I quit, man. I'm just letting you know I quit, because I wasn't going to let something that I hated stop me from living a dream that I really wanted. So ended up quitting my job, told him I would cover the extra shift on Sunday, but that whole shift I'm going to sit at a computer and write my 2 weeks notice, just as a formality, but that's a whole different story. So we ended up flying out into the RLCS, and the rest is kind of history. Did 8 seasons in the RLCS for 4 years. Started officially in like April or May of 2016 and went all the way up until this previous season, and officially was no longer brought back in January of 2020. So during that time, I'm very lucky, met a lot of really cool people, got to work a lot of cool shows like TBS and E-League and stuff. I've worked alongside really big name talent like Richard Lewis, Machine from Counter-Strike, Golden Boy, like Kelly Link. I've met a lot of really cool people. I ended up getting picked up by an agency and have 2 wonderful agents and people that I consider family in that agency. I've gotten to cast PUBG, Apex Legends, Valorant as of lately. Like, I've been very blessed in my career and to meet the people I have, and a lot of experiences. I've traveled the world. I've seen like 15 different countries, which for a small town kid from the Midwest is pretty crazy. So life-changing stuff. It's been absolutely crazy, and it's exciting to see that even though I'm not part of the RLCS anymore, we're moving on to the next chapter, whether it be content creation with you guys. And again, thank you for the 10K subs. And if you've made it this far, I greatly appreciate you guys taking the time to listen. But again, 10K subs, content creation full-time, and I can't thank you guys enough. But here's the next chapter, on to 25K. Thanks.